In this lecture, we are going to learn how lists will be created and used to store different types of data values. Python allows to store values of different types in a single variable. As we know that in other programming languages like C, C++, and Java, the concept of arrays also will do the same. But lists in Python are just like arrays in other programming languages, but they can hold any type of variables and can hold any number of variables as we need. For example, the arrays in C, C++, and Java, they are too specifically a particular data type. For example, if I declare any of the array variable as integer, then you have to store only the values of integer type. You cannot store the values of floating point. But in the case of list, at the same time, in a single list of values only, you can store different types of data values. Means a single list can have integer value, can have a floating point value, and can also have a string point value. Let us see some examples before understanding the concept of list very clearly. In the first step, let us see how lists will be created in Python. Then after, we will see how various list items can be added into the list and they can be accessed individually. For that one, let us take one simple example. Here, I am going to create one list, naming it as my list, and in this my list, I am assigning two square brackets. I am keeping two square brackets. That means that in this case, I am creating an empty list, and the name of the list is my list. Here, just you press enter. As there is no error message, that means that the statement is very clear. Now, we need to add some values into this list. For doing so, Python is supported with a predefined function called as append. With the help of append, we can add any value to a particular list. In this case, I want to add the values to the list, naming it as my list. So I will keep a dot here and I will use a function called as append. And in the parentheses, you need to pass the value which you want to store in the list. In this case, I will keep 10. Means this statement clearly says that using the append statement, we need to append the value of 10, the value 10 into my list. Then you simply press the enter button. Fine. Simultaneously, let us add two more elements into it. My list dot append 20, my list dot append 30. In this case, we will try to add only the integer values. Then in the next case, we will try to add different types of values. Means at the same time integers as well as strings. And now you press the enter button. Now here we have added three values 10, 20 and 30 into my list. Now let us try to access the values of this list. I will use a printf statement in this case. Printf, I want to print the value 10 from my list. So I will mention like this. This represents that 0 is the index. As we know that the array index starts from 0 and ends at length minus 1. Simultaneously, list values are also recognized by their indexes, and the index generally starts from 0. That means that the first element in the list will be in the index 0, the second element will be in the index number 2 and so on. In this case, as I want to display the value of 10, so as we can see that 10 is in the first place, that is in index number 0, I mentioned simply my list of 0. Then I will press the enter button. So we got the value as 10. Simultaneously, I will use printf statement again in order to display the value which is in the second index. Press the enter button. See, in the second index, the value available in the list is 30. Here, my list is a list variable and the list of values are pointed based on their index values 0, 1 and 2. Here, 0, 1 and 2 are the index values of the list where my list of 0 points to first memory location as I mentioned, that is 10. My list of 1 points to memory location where 20 is stored and vice versa. Next, how to access the values which are out of the range. Out of the range means, for example, you see here we have created a list of size 3, means in this list we are having 3 elements. What happens sometimes, what happens if I represent the index value which is going out of the bound? Out of the bound means here you see print my list of 6. Here I am mentioning it as my list of 6, thinking that there is a value in the 6th index, but my list is containing only 0, 1 and 2 indexes, but I am trying to access the value which is present in the 6th index. Let us try to see what happens in this case. Yes, we will get a error message, that is list index out of range. Why? Because 6 index is not at all available in the list. In Python, index values can be negative values like -1 and -2. When we mention the values as negative, then the search process starts from the end of the list. Let us try to understand this point very clearly. For example, here you see when I am using the index value in the positive number, index value as positive number, right? I am getting the value of 30. If I mention the index value in the negative number, means instead of representing it as 1, 2 and 3, 0, 1, 2 and 3, I will mention -1 here. See, the index value I am representing in the negative number, with a negative number. Then what output we can expect? Let us try to see what is the output one. The answer is 30. Now we need to understand why the output is 30 when I am mentioning the index value in the negative one. Means why negative -1 is identifying or representing to value 30. In this case, you need to remember one thing. That is, when you mention the index values in positive numbers, means 0, 1, 2, 3 like that, the search process will start from left to right, means starting from 0 index, continuing to 1, 2, 3 like that. But when you mention the index values with negative numbers, then the search process starts from the right side. Means instead of starting the search process from the starting of element, it will start the searching from the ending element. Here the point is, then what it will be the index value of the ending element? See, when the search process is from the right side, the index values will never be positives. They will be in the negatives. Means during the search process from the right hand side, the first value index is -1. Means at -1 index, the last element of the list will be presented, reside, or we can say stored. That's why when you mention -1, as the search process is from the right hand side, 30 is the first element, so the output we got is 30. Now I want to display the value 20 by using a negative index value. In this case, simply we can write it as print my list. In the square brackets, I have to mention -2. Why? Because from the right hand side, 20 is the second element. Means at -1, 30 is available. At -2, 20 will be available. Now try to see the output, whether we are expecting in a right way or not. Yes, we got the value 20. In general, index values starts from 0 and ends at length -1, as I mentioned. It means that 0 index represents the first value and first index represents the second value, and so on. Simultaneously, if you represent the index value as negative, like -1, then it represents the first value, and -2 represents the last but one value, and so on. Let us try to understand more clearly about the list, its creation, and accessing of elements in different ways. We will take a simple example. Here, I will create a list with the name itself, and I want to assign some values to it. The values are the characters I want to assign, so I am mentioning in single quotation marks: PYTHON. Here I am assigning 6 different characters into the list name. I press the enter button. So as there is no error, means there is no problem in the declaration of the list. Now we will try to access the substrings or the sub characters from the list. Here you are getting a error message. This is because, as you know, that we are learning from the other programming languages also, all the list of elements from a list or an array cannot be accessed with a single printf statement. For that one, definitely you need to work with the conditional statements or looping statements like while and for. So here also in Python also it is the same case. If I want to access the elements, means I want to access few of the elements, not one and one. For example, you see, if I keep name of 2, I am going to get a single element from the list. But in this case, in this example, I don't want to get the individual elements or individual values from the list. Rather than I want to get more than one value from the list. In this case, we can say a very simple thing. We can do it. Okay. Till now, we have seen how lists will be created and how the similar kind of data values will be stored. In this case, we will try to create a list with different data types. So I will create diff list, and this is an empty list I will create. Then I will try to append different values to this list. Diff list dot append, as we done previously. The first I will try to append the integer value, then I will try to append a floating point value, and at the same time I will try to append a character value. Okay, in all the three cases there is no error displayed. That means that at the same time, even you can create a list and you can append the values of different data types. Let us take one more example how the elements in the list can be accessed. And this is a complete different method than what we have done in the previous case. For this, let us take a list with the name itself, and here I will directly assign or add some values to it, all the character values. P Y T H O N. Means I am assigning 6 character values to the list name. Okay. Now what I will do is I will try to display only the values. I will try to display only the few values from the list, but not all. Means if you specifically mention the index of the array or list, you will get only a particular value which is present in that index. But here I want to get more than one value at the same time instead of accessing individual. Means for that case what I will do is here I will mention it as 0 to 3. Let us try to understand this statement. Name of 0:3. Here we are passing two values as parameters. The first value indicates from which element or from which index you want to get the elements values of the list, and 3 represents the range, the end point. The end point means here at the 0th index P is there, in index 1 Y is there, at index 2 T is there. It is not going to consider index 3. Why? Because the second parameter clearly says that the number of values starting from index number 0, right? Means in this case we need to get P, Y and T as the output. Let us see whether we have guessed correctly or not. Fine, we got P, Y and T, right? Simultaneously I will take one more example. Name of 1 to 4. Can you guess what will be the output? Try to understand it first. I am saying that we start displaying the values from index 1. Means Y will be the index 1 and then after you give 4 values, right? Means Y, T, H and O, right? These values should be the output for this statement. Let us see. See, try to understand what happened here. When you have written name of 1 is to 4, means starting from index number 1 and up to the values at index 4, that means that it is going to give the list of values from index 1 and the values which are before index 4. Got the point? See, in the previous case when we mentioned name 0 of 3, that means that starting from index number 0 and go on giving the elements or values which are before the third index. Similarly, when you mention name 1 is to 4, 1 to 4, that means that you start giving the list of values from index number 1 and continue up to or before the index value 4. That's why it has given the output as Y, T and H. In this third case, name of 1 is to 3 means 1 to 3, 1 to 5, sorry. Means here you are asking to start giving the list of values from index number 1 and give it up to or before index number 5. That's why the output is Y, T, H and O. I hope you understood this concept clearly. Now let us try to move further. What happens if we miss any of these two values to be passed to a list? As you are seeing here, if you want to get the part of the values, means not the complete list values, if you want to get two values or three values from the list, simply you can mention the index value and you can specify the range up to which index value you want to get the list values. But what happens if I miss? For example, in this case here you see I will mention like this. Means I am asking to give the list of values from index number 1, but I am not saying up to which index the value should be displayed. Then in this case what happens is, see, when the second parameter is not mentioned, Python will consider that it is going to give all the values which are present in the list starting from index number 1, right? That's why in the output we got y, t, h, o and n, right? Let us take one more example to understand it more clearly. I am mentioning like this. Means I am asking to give the list of values from index number 3, but I am not mentioning its range. So what will be the output? Let us guess. Index number 3. Index number 3 means 0, 1, 2, 3, and it will be from H. And we are asking from H and never mention the end. Means our guessing output will be H, O and N. Let us see whether we are getting the same output or not. Clear? We got H, O and N. Now we will take one more case. What happens if we miss the first parameter itself? First parameter means like this. Here I will mention 3. Means we are not mentioning from which index value the elements or the value should be given, right? Then what happens here? This statement is going to display a list of values starting from an index 0. Remember, when you are not mentioning any starting point, automatically its starting point will be from 0. Means the output will be like this, you see. Means in the previous case when we mentioned name of 0 to 3, the same output you are going to get here. I will take one more example. Name of 5 means it will be from index number 0 and up to the elements which are before the index value 5. See what happened? It is from 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Up to the 4th index we got it as a output. I hope you understood how lists are created and store values of different data types. And also you understood how these values can be accessed in different ways. In the next lecture, we will try to come up with various string manipulation functions that Python supports.